Greetings. Welcome to the Live Ready podcast, Beyond Think and Grow Rich, with your host, me, David R. Ibarra. I'm delighted to share with you, we're going to go retro this week. We're going to go back to the very first episode of our podcast that we started nearly 3 years ago. And why? Because the first podcast was me interviewing my big brother, Mickey Ibarra, the Ibarra brothers story. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you my brother, Mickey Ibarra.
Live ready, reach higher, chase the sky, beyond think and grow rich, you'll learn to fly.
Thank you, David, and I'm delighted to be the first.
Well, I thought that we're going to cover about 5 topics in our early years life, and I'd like to just have a conversation of what we each remember and what impact those 5 points in our life made on our achieving the success that we've each experienced. Let's start with the early years. Tell me, what is it that you remember about those early years, and tell our viewers a little bit about our untraditional childhood.
Yes. Well, I think the early years were a time of confusion, at times hurtful, at times lonely. I think the kind of experience that we had being raised in foster care for most of the first 15 years of our lives, I think from the outset, feeling a bit lost at times and wondering where we belonged and even who we belonged with, given the fact that our parents were really, for the large part, absent, being our natural parents. I do, though, have very strong memories of our father, Francisco Ibarra, who really, while not always frequent, but always remained in the picture. Mm-hmm. And I remember being so excited always to be in his presence, to spend time with him, all of that sort of thing. And I also, though, remember from the early years feeling a great deal of responsibility for you and your feelings, your safety, your ensuring that you were, in fact, taken care of. So that was the early years, I think that most early years are really a time of confusion, a time of hurt, a time of anxiety that we had to figure out how to overcome.
You know, it's interesting, as I remember Dad coming to see us, and I was always just so excited because, whether it was true or not true, but in my own mind, I had developed some kind of superhero that he was my hero, and I couldn't wait for him to come. Yeah. But as he left, he always went through the same ritual. He would put me on one knee and you on the other, and then he'd talk to you and say, Mickey, it is your responsibility to take care of your younger brother and make sure that he feels safe and that he belongs. And I often wondered, while the impact was great on both of us, for sure, and I know I had more difficulty, I think, than you may have had, or did I? I think to myself, what kind of impact did that put on a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old to always have the responsibility to be not only a kid, but to be a guardian, to be the father, the mother figure to a younger brother?
And, as I recall, too, I didn't know any different. So it was as though it was natural. Doesn't everybody do this? I had a little brother, and I needed to take care of him. And yet I also do recall, always being concerned about your feelings and that you were being okay. We dealt, as I recall, with our circumstance quite differently. I was the outgoing, gregarious, trying to please everybody and make everything all right. My memories of your experience standing right next to me was one of introversion, that you really took our difficulties, our upbringing, the insecurities really inside. And there was an anger about that also that manifested itself in different ways. But we were both lost at times and manifested that hurt, I think, differently.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I think that for me, I think the most biggest motivator was I was always frightened, scared, and angry because I felt like people picked on me because I was darker or I heard racial slurs. Didn't understand it. But one of the benefits is that I always felt like when I was lost to look for you. And you were always near, and it always worked out.
Well, you know, I recall, David, there was a time in our early years where you would not speak.
Yeah.
You would not speak. Can you imagine anybody believing that today? You could not speak or would not speak with anyone but me, even for the simplest things. I mean, a few occasions where we got an opportunity to frequent an A&W root beer stand. Okay, what would you like, boys? You'd whisper in my ear. Yeah. And then I'd tell them because you wouldn't speak.
I can remember Dad getting really angry at me for not daring to tell him I wanted an orange soda. We were at Liberty Park, and I whispered into your ear, and I got the orange soda, but I got a scolding with it.
Yeah.
But at any rate, what would, if you had to sum up the first 14 years, what would you say was the high point of your memory and maybe a low point?
Well, high point, I think early on, one of the things that really helped overcome circumstance that I found myself in was sports. I mean, sports was a great equalizer. One, I mean, nobody really cared what color you were, where you came from, whatever. You could hit the ball. You know, you can catch the ball and whatever like that. That was just a great experience. In addition to that, also, I thought that sports really, because it's a team, you know, unless you're playing tennis, and I wasn't playing tennis at that age, it's a team sport. So you do get a sense of belonging, which is something that I think that we both were looking for, a sense of belonging. And I think sports, through that hitting and catching and all of that, it's about achievement. You know, it's not about who you are, it's about what you do, what you produce, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I would say that as I evaluate the first 14 years of my life, it was a great memory for me were sports, starting with Little League, baseball, and going on from there. And I do think it connects into a vehicle for overcoming those feelings of confusion or not belonging and all that sort of thing. So I think that was it. I you know, switching gears as to the low point. The low point is clearly, so where are your parents? Well, your name's Ibarra. And that's what it was for us in early Utah. Ibarra. Well, we didn't even know what the heck our names were. Ibarra. I don't know. Probably didn't really start hearing that consistently till many years later, not in Salt Lake City or Provo, Utah, but rather California. You know, who are you? I think that was because what it did every time we were asked that, it reminded us that our parents weren't with us. Yeah. Who gives their kids away? Yeah. Who does that? And I also think for me, and I suspect that may have been you as well, it automatically triggered a defensive response. Right. Because you don't want your parents to be seen in a bad light. Yeah. True. But it's hard to explain as a youngster.
Well, and for me, I think I'd dovetail that the down point was the sense of embarrassment. Yeah. You know. Yeah. How'd this happen? Why
Who does that?
Happen?
Yeah.
And then to mask the embarrassment first of not talking until I was about 7, to then fighting and feeling the anger and channeling the anger, that if I could get people to stop laughing at me if somebody was laying on the ground after I knocked them out, and they would look at them instead of
Yeah.
me, and that caused me a great deal of problems. I think the high points are two. In fifth grade, meeting Sam Francis, a teacher who really talked me out of my shell and introducing me to sports. And you and I were not good. We were the best in what we did, and people looked up to us for our ability in football, baseball, and basketball, and taught me to believe in myself, and became my very first mentor. So that was a strong point as well. And then the ability to have a bond with you, a family member that's way different than any other brother could possibly have, because it's much more than brotherhood. And so the brothers Ibarra became bonded, that not very many people have ever been able to separate us in our lives. No matter whether we agreed or disagreed on certain topics, we always come back to the place, because it'll be that way for our entire lives. So I ended up getting more than a brother. I got a parent, a mom, a dad, and that was good. I'd like to move to a different subject and move on to what I like to call the move. Tell us a little bit about that. And it was when I was 14 and you were 15, and share with the audience the move.
Yes, and that year was 1966.
Wow, we're old.
That was a long time ago, but it's like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was that significant event in our life that I think was one of the clear crossroads that made all the difference in our future. I recall what was to be a week-long vacation with our dad that we were thrilled about, who by that time had left Utah and was running a successful small business, the Mona Lisa House of Beauty. Dad is, you recall, a hairstylist, and very good.
Was.
Very popular. And I recall you working him over from the moment we arrived till the moment we left, until you got him to yes. And the yes to the question, I want to move, and I want to live with you. This is where I want to be. I can't stand it in Utah. We got to get out of here. Well, I don't know if it was we, but I got to get out of here.
Right.
And the question, of course, that Dad had, number one, I give our dad so much credit. Our dad made a whole host of mistakes, to be sure, in his life. And yet the one that he can always be proud of, and we will always be proud of for him, I'm sure, is his decision to say yes. However, it was conditioned on the agreement that we would decide together.
Yeah.
That we had never been separated, and we weren't going to be separated now, especially because of him saying yes and allowing us to split up. So we agreed that we would go back to Utah and discuss it and figure it out, do it together. It wasn't too long before I realized that it was the right thing to do for you and for me to reunite with Dad. And the decision was made, and in August of 1966, packed up all our cardboard boxes and shipped them in the U.S. mail to Sacramento, and got us a bus ticket, Greyhound bus ticket,
Right.
from Salt Lake City to Sacramento.
You know, I remember the conversation, and we all remember things a little bit differently, and our memories are, mine certainly is most likely not accurate, and nobody's is. But I remember us having a conversation, and you not wanting to go. You were very successful at the high school you were at. You had made, I believe, varsity football
Baseball.
team and baseball, and were doing well. And I can remember I said, I'm going. Mick, I got to go. I got to get out of here. It's going to kill me if I don't get out of here.
Yeah.
And then you saying, okay, if you're going, I'm going with you. And off we went on that Greyhound bus. And I tell you what, for me, the big change was immediately in about a week, I realized, oh, my heavens, I look like everyone else. I just fit. And off to school we went. And I'd like to shift just a minute here and now ask a question about here we are arrived in Sacramento, had a bit of the summer with Dad, and it was, we could tell stories upon stories of things that Dad did not know about being a parent, but we'll skip those. And I'd like to shift right in to how it was that you began to be welcomed at our high school that we went to. You were a sophomore at Luther Burbank High School, and I was a ninth grader at Fair Junior High School. But how was it, the first introduction to what ended up being a great experience for you, your high school years?
Yes, and it's real clear to me. It began with my trying out for the high school football team. So once again, the sports experience translated and provided opportunities and opening and new friendships that were really accelerated by the sports and competition. And so I showed up at tryouts for the sophomore football team and made the team and really excelled on the team, in part because I had a head start. Mm-hmm. I had a head start because in Utah, where I had just left, Brigham Young High School was a 4-year school. I already had a year of football under my belt. And on top of that, I had a coach, Coach Jones of the sophomore team, who graduated and played football for Brigham Young University. So when he knew he had some young kid from Salt Lake City, Utah, who went to Brigham Young High School, well, I got his attention. And as soon as we started tryouts, it was very clear that I belonged out there and belonged on the team. And that really opened up again and just a whole host of opportunities and friendships that quickly developed.
Well, I can remember your starting in tackle football, that people saw you walk on a 5'7", 140-pounder, all wet, and laughed a little, and then one by one in tackle practice, they began to drop one by one, and they said, "Oh my hell, this guy can play football!" And right away, you had friends like Wade Deems, David Hill, and it went on that remain friends to this very day.
Yes.
For me, I remember a little bit different. I was scared. I mean, I was the first day of school, so the attention was on me, this kid from Utah. So I looked around and picked out the meanest junkyard dog in that school. And within one day, him and I went toe-to-toe, fisticuffs. And, of course, I won because I won all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I made I was in the in crowd. Don't say nothing to that guy. He'll knock you out. Yeah. And then went out for the football team and met the best friend that I would have throughout my life, Fernando Arroyo, who was the quarterback, and I was the quarterback from Utah. And so I think on our first play, he punched me out, and I hit him back, and we've been friends ever since. But the one thing that I still was anger, had an anger issue, that was a part of me for most of my youth and frankly, a big part of my adult life, is that it began to shed because I began to have experience. I'd like to, good experiences. I'd like to drift over to a little bit about your student politics at Luther Burbank High School. Tell me about that.
I credit my interest in government, in politics, campaigns, and elections. I do give much credit to my high school government teacher, Mr. Steinbeck, who would give extra credit to students that attended city council meetings, the legislature, a campaign speech. And boy, let me tell you what, I was an okay student, but not that great of a student. And I needed every bit of extra credit I could ever earn to get the grade that I wanted. And so it was through that experience, and again in his teaching about the importance of our civic responsibility, it really just stuck to me that I enjoyed it, and I wanted to be a part of it. And, of course, that was also expressed through student government. I ran for the senior class president of Luther Burbank against a woman. I can't believe that I still remember this, but my opponent was Ann Gamble. And I remember my slogan for the campaign was, "Don't gamble, vote Mickey for class president." Oh my gosh. And I won. So it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed that. And again, that's where I think that the social experience through student government really also helped drive the social advantage experience that I had in sports. People knew who the football team members were. They knew who the basketball team members were. And they wanted to be around you. They wanted to be a part of it. And so it was really helpful to me to have earned a name or a reputation on a sports team, and then to be able to just parlay that into a position of student government.
Well, it was interesting when I joined you at Luther Burbank and my sophomore year, and went out for the football team. Of course, Coach Jones was right there and knew all about me, and I had a very good season and received most valuable football player, and then the junior year and you move into senior, us being able to play football together was certainly a joy. And me going on to become a junior class president in a little different fashion perhaps than you did. I think everybody was afraid to run against me, but getting involved was a good experience. I wasn't a very good student, and I didn't show up much. I never missed a party, but I sure missed a lot of classes, and I always relied on my ability to pass because I was a football player, and normally that worked. It wasn't the best decision in my life for sure, because I had to make up for that, but it was really fun, a fun experience, us going to high school together, that's for sure.
Yes, and it was a significant, in my view, a very significant achievement for us both. I mean, I came from a high school that had 300 people from 9 to 12th grade. And our first year at Luther Burbank, there were 3,000 students attending. Yes. That was just prior to the opening of Kennedy High School, where it went from 3,000 to 2,000. But making that transition from very small community and small school to a major community population, as well as a big student population, that was a big jump, and we did it well.
Perfect. That was fun. Let's transition into a time period in our country that was very different, and in our service to our country in the military. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what was going on in the country? Certainly the Vietnam War, the protests, the division, racial divides, and how you went about deciding to serve, and what you did, and what did you think of that experience?
Well, this takes us back to 1970. Again, with Vietnam raging. It's hard to imagine that. At one time, the United States military had 500,000 soldiers in country, which required a massive, massive draft and recruitment program to feed the beast and provide the personnel. The truth is that my commitment to the U.S. military was largely a result of my difficulties attending college. Our parents were unable or unwilling to provide any support for tuition, room and board, and that sort of thing. I found myself as a freshman at Brigham Young University, and it was expensive, and I wasn't performing very well in school. And I was broke, and I could see that it wasn't going to be possible for me to move from freshman to sophomore. So I was going to take a break, not only because I was broke, but because I really wasn't sure of what I wanted to do. And I felt like the military experience would give me an opportunity to kind of figure that out, maybe grow up a little bit better too. And then thirdly, at that time in my life, 19 years old, I was old-fashioned enough even then to believe in patriotism and believe in responding to the call of our country that needed soldiers to fight a war that the leadership of the country decided was worth fighting. I later came to understand that probably wasn't the right thing to do. But at any rate, I think for those three reasons, that made the United States military a good option. I could sign up, and if I signed up for 3 years, I could help decide what my occupation would be in the service, and I would return with a GI Bill for education, the same start that our father, Francisco Ibarra, enjoyed following his service during the Korean conflict. And that would be my path. Complete college. It'd also be my path to grow up a bit, and thirdly be my path to serve my country.
Right. Yeah, for me, it was, I can remember we had a party at the house. You had already left, and they had the ping pong balls where your date would come up,
Yes.
and they were
The
going
draft.
through this machine, and they had announced that the first 235 numbers picked were going to be drafted. And so I'm in the kitchen popping popcorn, and everybody starts laughing. We had all our dates, and they said, Ibarra, you better get your ass in here. And so I go in there, and sure as enough, my number popped up, number 18. I was going and going to be drafted. And so at that time, it was really obvious that the war was a mistake, and we were going to be sent while there was a peace, a treaty that was honorable. I don't know how you come up with honorable when it went on for more years and more lives were lost. But I decided to quickly get into the Air Force Reserves, and I got in, so I was able to avoid the draft and serve as a reservist. It was a different experience. I wouldn't say boot camp was fun, but it did teach me a little bit about discipline. And also, like you, I felt an obligation that while many of our friends were leaving and going to Canada to avoid the draft, that was just something I couldn't do. If I got drafted and ended up having to go to Vietnam, I just couldn't go against our country. And, our dad came here to change our lives, and a lot of things happened to us because of Dad's decision. And so it ended up being a good experience. I progressed quickly and ended up a Staff Sergeant David Ibarra, and reports as ordered, sir. And I felt like I met the obligation. Let's move to the final topic of our discussion today is how is it that you decided what you were going to do for a living? What did you want to do?
As I think about my 45-year professional career, I think of Mr. Steinberg once again, who not only helped me understand the importance of government and civic responsibility, but also what a difference a teacher can make in a person's life. Teachers make an infinite impact that for the most part they'll never fully know about in a person's life, in a student's life. I certainly was the benefactor of not only Mr. Steinberg, but other teachers that cared about my future. So early on, I felt myself interested in teaching and education. And of course, for the first 5 years of my career, I tell folks, and I believe this, I started at the top as a teacher of at-risk high school students. Many folks would categorize our experience, David, as being at risk. Well, I wanted to have an opportunity with kids that were struggling to see if they could be helped. And so that decision to graduate from Brigham Young University, to get my teaching certificate, and to get an opportunity to teach was the right one for me. I enjoyed it for 5 years. It really set me on a path that really has been a terrific career.
For me, I was motivated by fear, I think, until I was about in my late 40s. And so I was afraid I just wasn't going to get any opportunity. I was working as a dishwasher at Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor, and I had the good fortune to meet Mr. Farrell. He took me under his wing. He became my mentor. He introduced me to something that we'll talk about later, but a book called Think and Grow Rich that really began the changing of my thoughts and how I let them get into my mind and to guide me. And so I ended up in the restaurant business by accident, but it became the University of Hard Knocks, and I grew quickly, and I'm so thankful that most insignificant position that I thought I would have had turned out to be one of the most significant decisions I ever made, becoming a dishwasher at Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor restaurant. So, Mickey, I want to thank you for participating in the first episode, the Brothers Ibarra, the early years, and there is going to be an episode 2 that we're going to talk about our careers and other things in our lives. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you, David. I've enjoyed it.
Live ready, reach higher, chase the sky. Beyond thinking, grow rich, you'll learn to fly. With every step forward, the future